One of the first things you have to do when you're making a piece of leather, assuming you want to have it without any hair on, is to remove the hair. This is done using an unhairing knife, and having soaked the skins in, traditionally you'd use a lye solution, and this loosens the hair follicle, and eventually it gets to the point where the hair comes out really quite easily. It's just scraping it off fairly gently with this knife to reveal the hide underneath. It's important that you don't gouge or scrape into the skin and do any damage. But if it's been left for long enough and you've got your mixture right, the hair should come off fairly easily, as you can see here, without any problem at all. It's always interesting when you remove the hair and it reveals the grain underneath. To say it's a delight is a bit of a weird thing to say, but you do start to see the leather developing at this stage, when you can see the characteristic of the skin coming through, and you get an idea of what you're going to end up with. So when you've finished unhairing the skin, it then goes into a tub and gets washed again, and clean the skin up as much as possible, ready for the pickling process. The pickling process is the pre-tanning process. It gets the skin ready to receive the tanning agents. So I'll move over now and show you a pickled skin. So this is the pickled skin. This has been washed, and then it's been in a bath of salt and hydrochloric acid. So it's got a very, very low pH. The pH of the skin is probably about 2.5. If I put this in fresh water now, the skin will swell up due to osmosis. It's called acid swelling, and if you have an acidic raw skin like this and you put it in ordinary water, it plumps up very, very quickly and swells. So it's important that when I put this skin back into process, that I put it into a salt solution, so the salt already in the water before I put it in, and this reverses the osmotic pressure. It means the skin won't swell when I process it. Once the skin's tanned, it's not a problem, but at this stage it's very susceptible to swelling, and when it swells, it distorts the fibre structure of the skin and weakens the leather. The resultant leather will always be very tender and will tear. So this osmotic swelling is something that's beaten into us at an early age when we're learning about leather making. If you can imagine, if you're processing 1,200 skins at a time or something, and you get the osmotic pressure right, you could knacker up £5,000 worth of leather overnight. Alright, so I've got my fresh water here, and I'm going to add salt to it. About 1 kilo of salt should be enough. So I've basically got a fairly straight saline solution here, and I'll now put the skin into it. If the skin's going to swell, it will start to do it after a few minutes. But I'm completely confident that skin is not going to swell in that solution. The next thing I need to do prior to tanning it is to raise the pH, because the pH is too low at the moment, and the tanning materials will just stick on the surface. So I've got to raise the pH now to make the skin less attractive to the tanning material. So when I put the tannins into that mixture, that liquor, they'll permeate all the way through the skin. So I'm just now going to add my neutralizing agent. So for neutralizing, we use sodium bicarbonate. So I'll put a scoop of that in. Not that you can see it, but when I put that in, as the sodium bicarbonate neutralizes the acid by reacting it. It's obviously it's giving off carbon dioxide, so you can see this sort of effervescence coming out of the tub when I put it in. And I'm going to leave it to neutralize overnight now. Then in the morning I'll drain that liquor off and make a fresh batch up of water, and then I'll add my vegetable tannins to it, my tanning extract to that, and then leave it to soak in that for a couple of days. Right, I've got my tanning bath ready now. So this is my tan liquor, which is mimosa bark. My family have always used mimosa for the veg tanning. It gives a nice biscuity colour to the leather, but not too intense. But there are a variety of vegetable tanning extracts you can use. Oak bark obviously is the one that everyone knows about. The chestnut as well. So I'm going to put the skin that we've been neutralising into the mimosa bark mix now. And as you see, it hasn't swollen up at all, which was my concern. And there's a nice softness to it now already. I'll put it in this, my tan mix, and it's going to have to stay in there, probably in there for a couple of days, 2 days. I'll keep stirring it around every so often, try and prevent any stain forming on the skin or anything like that. And then it'll be ready for drying out and stretching on my toggling frames. So, after 2 days in this tan liquor and having been stirred around every 12 hours or so, I've now got a piece of tan leather, a beautiful colour from the veg tan. That's a completely natural piece of leather using natural products to produce it. So this is ready for stretching out and drying now, which I shall do on my drying frames. I dry them in the sun when I can. If there's no sun, I don't dry them. I don't like drying them indoors because it costs too much money. I mean, I do that when I have to, but on a sunny day, we'll get them out. So I'm going to stretch this skin out now on my toggling frames. When you dry your leather naturally like this, it doesn't dry out too firm. It keeps it fairly soft. I mean, there's a stiffness to it when it's dry, but it's better than force drying with steam heat or something like that. So I'll stretch the skin out on these toggling frames now. Right, that skin should dry out in a few hours in the sun. They'll be ready for taking down and softening. Right, that's the skin ready for softening. You do that just by manipulating it, stretching it and pulling it and working it. And it'll soften it up. So there you have a piece of naturally veg tanned deerskin leather. Don't try this at home.